Hi everybody. We're going to continue our talk now on addictive relationships, looking particularly at parenting styles or parenting situations that created the two people who end up in the addictive relationship that we talked about before. Who had the blindfolds that popped off. And who were so fast and intensely connected. So in talking about these people, we're going to look at three different scenarios that create different kinds of people. And the first kind of people we're going to talk about actually seems to have very little to do with our two characters over here. Okay, we're talking about people who have healthy parenting styles or a healthy parenting experience and relationship. And that usually goes somewhat like this. There's a parent and there's a child. And this is definitely from the Pia Mellody material. And everybody's looking at each other and everybody's smiling and happy. And the energy is going from the parent to the child, the way it's supposed to go. Okay? So the energy is flowing from the parent to the child. And in this relationship, the child learns some very important things. Number one, they learn, I am wonderful. Because they're receiving unconditional positive regard, they're getting all kinds of positive strokes, they're getting to learn all about high self-esteem. Second thing that they learn is I have power in the world and I can take care of myself. I have power in the world and I can take care of myself. Now, we always cite the example of the babies in Russia where there were so many orphan children that nobody was able to hold some of the children, and when the children were not held, they actually died. Okay? When we foster the positive for these children, I have power in the world and I can take care of myself. When the baby cries and someone goes to the baby realizes, I can take an action and make something happen. And when that's continued, they end up believing and knowing I have power in the world and I can take care of myself. Very, very important. The third thing that they learn is love is actually love. And love is good. And love is someone who likes me. And love is someone who's coming towards me, not walking away from me. So essentially, this little picture here becomes the definition of what love is, because this is the primary love object, and that's how they're getting imprinted about what is love. Make sense? Pretty obvious. Now, these two people did not have this experience, okay? They had other experiences. And so we're going to go into those and look at those now. I'm going to erase this because we're going to really need a lot of room for what goes on with these people since they don't have this experience. And what we're going to start with over here is her experience. We're going to say that she comes from the abandonment history. And in terms of Pia Mellody's work, she's going to be called the Love Addict. Although we always want to be careful that that's not an oversimplification. She may have other addictions. She may be the love addict and also have a lot of elements of what's going on his side of the relationship. We're going to maybe sometimes refer to him as the avoidant or the avoidance addict, and she may have a lot of that going on too. But we're again looking at the stereotypical pieces of these relationships. The parenting relationship here looks different. We have a parent and a child, and that energy flow is not happening the way it's supposed to be happening. They are disconnected. That energy flow is broken, and the parent is walking away. Okay? Now, they may walk away once and never come back, or they may walk away and come back and walk away and come back. And, you know, it's hard to determine which one is worse. There's a very famous experiment done with two groups of mice, and this was about intermittent reinforcement. And that actually kind of happens sometimes in these parental relationships, where we have two groups of mice. One group of mice, we feed them cheese, and every time we feed them cheese, they get an electric shock. Second group of mice, sometimes we feed them just cheese, and sometimes we feed them cheese with an electric shock. The group of mice who always get the cheese with the shock and know what to expect stop eating the cheese, and they all survive. The other group, who sometimes get the shock and sometimes get the goodies, keep going back over and over and over again until every last one of them is fried dead. Okay? That's called intermittent reinforcement, and it's probably the most powerful human motivator that there is. We see this a lot in addicted relationships, where we're chasing after somebody who's sometimes good to us, sometimes not good to us, and usually this is where we picked that up in the first place. So the lessons that this person learns go like this. Number one, I am worthless. Why am I worthless? Because you threw me away like a piece of trash. Whether it was once or over and over again, you told me I was the wrong thing. You threw me away like a piece of trash. Number two, I can't take care of myself. And let's say, in parentheses, I have no power in the world. Because just like nobody held the baby, this lesson wasn't internalized of I can take care of myself. So this person grows up to need someone to take care of them. I better find somebody who can take care of me because I can't take care of myself, even if it means I'm ready to go to any lengths to take care of them, but I can't take care of myself. Okay? And then number three, what they learn is love equals you leave me, or maybe you just don't like me that much. You leave me, or maybe you just don't like me that much. Or, truthfully, it's whatever the snapshot was here of what was going on there, that's what love equals for this person, because that's how they were imprinted about love, or the primary love object. Make sense? Okay. So very often we have people, it's infinitely obvious that someone who's hard to get or who doesn't want us is very, very attractive, and suddenly they may turn around and want us, and their attractiveness radically diminishes. It's almost like a bad joke. Okay. So important to note, I can't take care of myself. I have no power in the world, so I better find someone else. I need someone to take care of me because I can't do it. Okay? Now, his story is a different one, and it's actually more complex. His story goes like this. He has been controlled. He has been used. He comes from a history of some abandonment, but it's of a different shape and a different flavor. So we're going to call him the avoidant, but there's so much more to what goes into making that avoidance that kind of isn't initially seen at first glance. So when we look at the parenting styles for him, we're going to draw it a little differently. We're going to first of all draw a little symbol. It's hard to read. I'm going to erase that because that's really hopeless. Let's try again. Let's say that's a wheelchair, okay? And here is the parent, and here's the child, and the parent is somehow impaired. They may have a physical impairment. They may be, let's say there's a divorce and they have no help. They can't do everything on their own. They're having, they're overburdened. There's too much. They need to rely on their kids. This is also often about performance. If you perform for me, then I will love you and praise you, and you'll know you're a good person. But if you don't, I may throw you away. So instead of the energy flowing from the parent to the child, here the energy is going from the child to the parent. Okay? So what we're talking about here is the parent is an energy vampire. And they may not be doing this on purpose. They may not even be aware that they're doing it. They don't necessarily have a plan to be doing this, but they are sucking the life energy out of the child. Okay? So what happens in this case is the child is called upon to help. So the child goes in and provides help or performance for the parent. While they provide the help, okay, they get a lot of praise, and their esteem goes up. They don't realize it at the time that it's not really self-esteem, it's other esteem that they're experiencing. So they're helping, and while they're helping, we're talking about somebody who's a kid, who's not really supposed to be helping or performing as an adult, okay? They become angry and they become suffocated. And while they're in helping, that angry feeling, that suffocation, they can't take it, they check out, they go down to the schoolyard and smoke dope with their friends or check out in some way, okay? But when they do that, It's extremely, extremely uncomfortable for them. Their self-esteem plummets, and they feel extremely, extremely guilty. And they can't take that guilty feeling. They actually feel like, I'm a bad person. And they can't tolerate feeling that way. So they go back in to help. They feel better. Their esteem goes up. They get the strokes that they were missing. But then they're being used. They feel angry. They feel suffocated again. They can't take it. They go back out. And this pattern of in and out and in and out becomes normal for them. And that transfers over here later on into this adult relationship. Okay? So the lessons that this child learns as they're growing up are different than these and different than the healthy messages. So, number one, if I perform for you, I am a good person. We'll say valuable. Okay? If I don't, I am worthless and you throw me away. Think about, for example, like a kid on a baseball team who's getting very pressured by their parents. I was never so good in baseball, so you have to be. And if you do it, I love you. And if you don't, then I throw you away. These are the kinds of examples that we're talking about. Okay. Performance, performance, performance. Number three, because I feel worthless when I am not helping someone, I must have someone to take care of. Even though I will hate it. Make sense? You see how this plays out? Okay. Finally, love equals you use me. I am angry, suffocated, and we do this whole dance where I go in and out, taking care of you, and I absolutely resent it. And in other words, we had up here a snapshot, and one more time, whatever that snapshot was, that's what love turns out to be for this person when they're reaching maturity and having relationship. Okay. So what this all adds up to is that we have this little person who must have someone to take care of right here. And we have these two people who saw each other across the crowded room. And they had that intensity, and it was fast, and they connected up. And what we don't realize is that it's not about passion, it's not about looks, it's about this unconscious energy that's playing out here, mostly between this old programming from these two people about I must have someone to take care of me, and hey, that person over there looks like they need someone to take care of them, and I need that even though I'm going to resent it. That's what all that adds up to. So I think this is incredibly, incredibly valuable information. This to me should be taught in schools by 6th grade at the latest, because kids understand this, people understand this, we recognize it. This is rampant in our world. It's more normal in terms of relationships than the kind of relationships that we think are normal. And we need to really become educated about these dynamics and these factors and how they play out for all of us. So I hope this was valuable for you. Again, you can always go to my website, www.lucbenoit.com. You can always reach me by phone at 562-618-3099. I'm always here to answer questions and happy to work with you. Take care. I hope you have an excellent day.